All right. Hello, everyone. This is much better than our first audit committee meeting when I had to start all by myself because everybody had problems with traffic. So welcome, everyone. It's 5 o'clock, and so I'd like to call the audit committee meeting to order. Thank you all for being here. We have a full agenda today, so I would like to get started with introductions. My name is Patty Sullivan. I am a board member and the chair of this audit committee. Starting to my right, let's go start with Mary Catherine and we'll come around.
Janice Hansen, PPS Internal Auditor.
Eben Cole, District Student Council Representative.
Stephanie Engelsman, Zone 6 Representative.
Be me. Christy Split, I live in Southwest Portland.
Jennifer Samuels, she, her, and I'm a community member.
Caroline Zavikovsky, she, her. I'm also a community member.
Michelle Morrison, Chief Financial Officer for the district.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And Stephanie and Christy, you're also board members and members of the committee. So, let's see. So on the agenda today, we're going to start with public testimony. Then we will have a presentation of audit results of the district's annual comprehensive financial report and single audit. And we'll wrap up the meeting with a presentation of the multilingual learners English language development compliance audit. Ms. Bradshaw, do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
We do not.
All right, we can go on. The first item on our agenda, as I said, is a presentation of the audit results of the district's annual comprehensive financial report, commonly abbreviated to the ACFR, and the single audit, which is an audit of compliance with federal grant requirements. Oregon state law states, in part, that all school boards will have an annual independent audit performed in a manner set forth in the Oregon Revised Statutes, ORS 328.465, and a copy of the audit report must be shared with the district board. Today we have Chief Financial Officer Michelle Morrison here with an independent auditor, Dan Miley, who is a partner at TKW, which is Talbot, Corvola, and Warwick, the accounting firm we contract with to perform the required audits. Chief Morrison, would you please introduce this topic?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for your time this evening and attention to this matter. I do want to kind of start with a bit of an introduction. I know that Kara's getting our presentation up on screen. Just to acknowledge the late date of this report. It's typical that this comes to the board sometime in December or even January for the prior year, which ends in June 30th, the prior year. So we are aware that this particular process has gone differently in terms of timeline for various reasons, and our auditor is going to share some information about that with you. So we'll go ahead and get started. See if I can navigate our familiar slides. Always a little bit of a wow. Our presentation tonight is two-part. I have a kind of the overarching presentation with our auditor, Dan Miley, taking up the next little bit to explain an overview of the process and the engagement and the things that they do as their work with us as a team. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dan. Thank you.
Good evening. The financial statement audit and the single audit definitely had some challenges this year, but we made it through, got it done. I'd like to thank Michelle, Rachel, and all the staff within the finance department, but also we talk with people throughout the district and with the board and like that. So we do a lot of work to get to this point. We use what we call GAS, auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America, and then also another form of GAS is government auditing standards, which is those put out by the federal government, the Comptroller General of the United States. In timing, we start before interim field work with talking with Finance Department, getting schedules together, sort of developing the plan. Then at interim, which started in May this year, we came out with a team, more questions. We started doing some risk assessments, getting an understanding of internal controls, and then testing those controls. And then beginning to start, well, we try to start on single audit, which we'll get to a little bit later. And then final field work, we came out again to the district, and we're here for 3 weeks in person, and then, of course, continued on remotely with that. This was the first year since the pandemic that I think we were back on site pretty much full time during the audit fieldwork times, so that definitely helped in some circumstances. There was a delay in getting the Office of Management and Budget Compliance supplement. This is sort of the roadmap for the single audit. This has what the federal government wants us to look at with all the federal expenditures programs. So without it, we sort of don't know what the federal government wants us to do with it. We had a draft and it went back and forth of whether there was going to be changes, no changes, how that was going to go through. And it did not come out till the end of November, which when we were planning on doing this work in October, there could be some timing differences there, you can imagine. But we got it, we worked through that. The single audit was 3 major programs this year, Child Nutrition Cluster, Title I, and for the last year, I think, the Education Stabilization Fund. Those were the COVID monies that came out. All said, those 3 programs represented 47% of the $64 million of federal expenditures that the district had for the fiscal year. I am happy to report that at the end of this, we were able to issue an unmodified opinion, which means that the financial statements are, in our opinion, are presented fairly in accordance with US GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. Part of the audit, part of what we call OMS, Oregon Minimum Standards, which is Oregon state regulations regarding what governments in Oregon need to do as part of the audit. There are certain things that we need to test. Some of these go over Oregon local budget law, purchasing, external use of funds, ADM, those types of things. During the course of our work, there was 3 findings that we had to report in our report in accordance with Oregon state regulations. There was 2 instances of over expenditures, one in the general fund for instruction by about $4.1 million, and then one in the special revenue fund for support services of about $3.6 million. The second one was sort of a process-driven thing. There was a supplemental budget that was passed by the district, but it used the rules and the process set for a budget transfer resolution. So a supplemental budget normally requires a little bit more formal notifications and that kind of stuff. So it was just something that we noted. In the last finding that we have related to teacher experience, this one pops up every once in a while. It's not an uncommon one for school districts just because of how when teachers move around from one school district to another, when they get hired, they may not have all the information. ODE's changing information in the background sometimes. So out of the population of almost 2,900 teachers that you guys have, we selected 60 and 4 of those had issues.
Can I ask, if we have a question,
Yeah.
can we ask you?
Yes, sorry,
as you're
I
speaking?
started, yeah.
Okay. I just wondered with that supplemental budget.
Yeah.
I thought I had read that if it wasn't over a certain amount, you could just do a transfer, but it sounds like you're saying we should have done something else.
So any time that you change appropriations up or down, and that's what triggered this, is that you actually reduced appropriations, a supplemental budget is needed. So it's one of those little things people are like, well, we're lowering appropriations, what's the risk? And so it's not the first client I've run into where something like this has happened. Most people get the increase of appropriations.
Would you mind I would just appreciate
Yeah.
kind of hearing this again, because it sounds like something we
Yeah.
maybe made a mistake in as a board. So did we just not have it come to us to vote either way, or did we use the wrong process to do it, or how did we do it? And what do you recommend in the future, very specifically? Thanks.
The board voted on it, but whenever you change a budget, state law has two different ways you can do it. One's what they call a budget transfer, which is general notice but not as formal, and then a supplemental budget, and that requires certain publications within certain time frames. We did discuss this with finance staff and gave them some resources on, okay, here's the process to follow in the future. So I think everybody's.
So we don't need to know that much about it,
Yeah.
as long as Michelle.
Yeah. Well,
Michelle
it's
has-
sort of, it's what needs to happen before it goes to the board. So it's more of did it get published correctly within the right timeframes, that type of thing.
And is there an amount threshold or anything like that, or it's just any time there's a decrease?
So anytime there's a change in appropriations, a supplemental budget is needed, or I think, now I'm doing it out of memory, 15% of operating contingencies are moved out. So 15% of appropriations are moved out of operating contingencies. That would also need a supplemental budget.
Okay, thanks.
So. Moving on to the single audit. Part of the single audit is we also have to issue a report on internal controls over financial reporting. And as part of that, there was one significant deficiency that we noted over financial reporting. And it just had to do with, there was a number of different state grants and federal grants that sort of crossed. They were just recorded in the wrong bucket, and they had to move it around. And then some timing issues as well. So that was the one on internal control, and that actually was repeated as an internal control finding over compliance as one of the 6 down below, because it also impacted your schedule of federal expenditures. So what we use as the basis for the single audit to know what programs to audit. So whenever that starts moving, that gets us a little nervous as well. For the single audit, the 3 major programs that we audited, there's an unmodified opinion that we believe that they're in substantial compliance with federal regulations. While there's 6 deficiencies up there, it's, other than the one that we just talked about, there's only 3 others. 3 of them are the same issue but related to each major program. And we just have to repeat it because each program is sort of its own independent, what we call mini audit. The one that crossed over all 3 was indirect. And while there was an error in indirect charges, that very small, and it was corrected, and so there was no compliance issues, but there was no documentation of review and approval of those indirect charges and those calculations. The person that made them has moved on, was no longer with the district, so we're thinking they're somewhere in an email maybe, hopefully. But because the district couldn't provide the documentation, unfortunately in the single audit world, if you don't document it, we can't say it happened. And that's actually sort of the common theme with the next one as well, related to, there was one about reporting with the Education Stabilization Fund. Just the report was submitted on time. We found no issues with the numbers in the report, but we couldn't find any documentation of the review and approval before it went. And the last one, and this one was noted also by ODE during a program review of Title I, was just time and effort certifications or some acceptable alternative. The district wasn't keeping track of those. And then I know that Michelle and Rachel, they have been working on the corrective action plan, and so I think a lot of that place is relatively easy fixes and just making sure that documentation is kept and the processes are in place, which I'm assuming you guys will get to in a little bit. Anything else before moving on about the audit, single audit? Anything? No? Okay. Some other required communications is there's some significant accounting practices policies. These are listed in the notes that sort of go over how they came about. One of the major changes to the district's financial statements this year was the implementation of what we call GASB Statement 101. So the Government Accounting Standards Board is what GASB stands for, and it had to do with compensated absences. So it changed it from historically governments had to record what they would pay out. So this would be like vacation time, somebody leaves the district, you have to pay that out. They tweaked the wording to either paid out or used to try and match up when the benefit was earned to the period, to the same period, that expense. So it now includes sick time. So the impact to the district's financial statements was approximately $42 million increase in the compensated absence liability to account for that sick time that the district estimates will be used over the course of a teacher's employment.
So was that not recorded at all or recorded in the wrong place?
That is a new accounting standard.
whole new-
So there was a piece of it that was recorded. So your vacation time has always been recorded. Now there's sick time layered on top of this. I like to say that reality didn't change for you guys, just how the scorekeeping goes. So it just changed a little bit and made it a little bit more visible that in addition to this vacation time that district employees have, there's also the sick time that employees have that is going to be used, and when they're using it, they are providing no services to the district because they're on a leave. They also cover some other types of leave, but those are relatively minimal for the district. I mean, they set out rules for like parental leave, military leave, jury duty even came up in the standard. So all these smaller types of things as well.
Yes. So I just want to be clear, we know that we spent that money. We just had it in different spots.
Well, no, this money has not been spent yet. This is an incurred liability. So this is what you think you're going to pay on sick leave in the future.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So this isn't necessarily an error that was done. This is just the accounting rules changed on you.
Can I ask a follow-up? Just
Yeah.
so I understand it. The accounting rules change. I think this is maybe what Patty was
Yeah.
asking. So the accounting rules changed, but the budget didn't change. So it's not like we had to find 42 extra million. It was just how it's being.
Yeah.
Okay.
And these are being what we call on the entity-wide basis, so the governmental activities. So these aren't being recorded at the fund basis until they're actually used, which is historically how they've been recorded by the district. So when you actually pay the money, that's when it shows up in at the fund level on the budgetary basis. Yeah, we like to split hairs every once in a while. But this did come up with a new way of calculating, a new methodology, a new way of thinking for everyone. This isn't just a PPS issue. This is every single government in the United States now has to take this into account in their financial reports. So this is everybody. Not that it makes everybody feel better, but. The other standard had a minimal impact on the district. There's now a standard that if there's certain risks that the district is experiencing or they believe it's going to experience in the near future, those have to be disclosed. And this is more than a material impact. The wording's a little strange in the standard, but more than a material impact on the operations or financial condition of the district. So this would be one of the examples that they use in the standard is you have 90% plus of your employees belong to a union and they go on strike. That would significantly impact the operations of a government. So that would be something that would be disclosed in that. Management went through this with the new standard, evaluated it, and it's their belief that nothing rose to that level. We aren't aware of anything that would raise to that level either. And then there's, as always, significant accounting estimates are used. In the financial statements, you can see the list there, but whenever an estimate is made, it gives an opportunity to for management to introduce bias. Not saying that we found any, but it's one of those things that it's a higher risk because you have to make a judgment. Do we use option A or option B? And so it's something that we always encourage audit committees, boards, and all to take a closer look at some of those things to make sure they make sense and to ask questions if they don't. Just to make sure that, hey, there's not something that is tilting one way or another, that it's all sort of, okay, that all makes sense to me. In the letter that was provided, in the communications to those charged with governance letter that we called of the audit results, there's 4 proposed adjusting entries. Those sort of go with the control deficiencies that we already talked about, so I won't go into any of those too much unless somebody wants to. There is 2 uncorrected misstatements. One involved a proposed journal entry, so when we take a sample, if we find an error, we have to project an error. The district fixed the error that we found, but we still have this projected error. It's not material. We agree with management in that respect, but it's still large enough that we have to include it in our communications just to let you know that, hey, there might be something more out there. The other one, and this I don't think has happened very often here at PPS, is the local government investment pool should be stated at fair value. Every year, the state of Oregon, which I'm just going to call LGIP, just easier, puts out financial statements for this pool and gives a fair market adjustment should make. But it operates more like a money market account. If $1's in there, the district will never be able to pull out more than that $1 that's in there. And it just, again, raised above that threshold that went, hey, it's not fair market value for one fund, just because of the large dollar amount in there with the smaller activity this year. It just got outside of those thresholds. So that difference between what was recorded in the LGIP account and what was what should have been there when you account for this fair value factor that gets published was there. Not, once again, not material, but it was outside of our threshold that we have to report.
I have a quick question. Sorry.
Yeah.
The letter that you just mentioned to those charged with governance, is that in the packet or is it separately attached? I didn't notice that packet.
Okay.
Or I
This
didn't
would be-
notice the letter
Okay.
to those charged with governance in the packet.
I'm not sure that it's in the audit committee. It may have gone to the full board in that packet.
Oh,
So we'll double check on that.
Okay.
I had a quick question about
Yeah.
you were mentioning fair value in the investment fund. How is that determined?
The state of Oregon create, as part of their audited financial statements, develops what that is and what they state it at. So their financial statements have it at fair value, and then they just go, here's the calculation to get from what we say you have to where we got.
Yeah, thank you.
So, and it's relatively small. It's like 0.049% or something, some small percentage like that. So,
Just to go back to the letter, it is posted with the materials and board book for this meeting, that letter. The 2025 communications with those charged with governance letter that was referenced here is in board book as part of the materials.
okay. Any other questions? Okay.
Can I ask, did I hear you say that those, like, the journal entry adjustments and the misstatements were related back to the findings? Or,
Yeah, so whenever we have a proposed adjusting journal entry, the assumption normally is that there was a control deficiency somewhere. So let me see here. So like there's an adjusting entry to correct revenue balances. Well, that relates to the federal and state monies getting corrected that we discussed with the control findings. And then additionally, there was one revenue that we saw that was recorded twice. But then there was some unavailable grant revenue, which is again just a timing thing. So it all sort of goes into that one finding over. While there's 4 adjusting entries, it all sort of revolves around revenue. And so that's why there's one control finding there.
sorry, I'm just having a hard time keeping
Yeah.
track of all the different findings. Were those the findings from the single audit or the other finding?
So-
Which finding does this go back to?
So this is the one that crosses both a single audit
Okay.
finding and the financial statement finding. So, and those are in more detail in the schedule of findings and question costs within the ACFR itself, which is towards the back. It's page 143 is when that schedule starts. Sorry. Another thing that we're required to do by standards is if we're aware of the district consulting with any other CPAs, which we are not aware of. The Government Accounting Standards Board has continued to stay busy. There's 3 issued standards, 2 that will be effective next year. GASB Statement 103 will make changes to the financial reporting model. This will impact, for the district, probably the biggest impacts will be toward your management discussion and analysis. The categories you can sort of see are sort of the same, but it re-emphasizes that they do not want boilerplate analysis. They want it specific to the entity, and that it really needs to describe what's happening, not just and why, not just what happened, but okay, why, what's going on there that's causing this. The other thing that will change is some definitions around significant and unusual events and infrequent events. It will impact your budget schedules. So the biggest difference there is you will now have to show a column for the change from your beginning to ending fund balance. And then also what used to be in the MD&A about budget variances are now moved to the notes to those. There's also going to be some changes with how the internal service fund, so proprietary funds, change their formatting a bit. It won't really change numbers per se, but it will change the presentation of what's there. And then with 104, it just spells out a little bit clearly, more clear than what's in the standard right now, of what they expect to be disclosed in the capital asset footnote for intangible assets like your subscription arrangements and your lease arrangements that are now showing up on the statement of net position for the district. It also goes over and gives some guidance that was unclear in the past about how to report assets available for sale. And then the last one is 2 years from now, and it just gives some additional guidance on what and how to disclose subsequent events. So things that happen after the financial statement date. So in this case, what's happened since since June 30th, 25, how those events would be disclosed in an ACFR. This is also a point that we like to make, is that there's a shared responsibility for independence. We do our best to maintain our independence from the district. We are the independent auditors. That requires us to do certain things, make sure we don't enter into certain relationships, but also the district has some responsibility to make sure that they don't accidentally impair some independence as well. And then also to bring your attention to the management representation letter that is attached to that letter to those charged with governance. And that covers all the representation, so the things that management told us in writing. That covers, yes, everything that we responded to was truthful. Yes, we gave you the right reports, all those things.
So I just looked it up, and Miss Bradshaw is correct. It is posted, but I like to prepare you guys for the meeting, and this is not one of the documents that I printed and brought to you guys, so you might want to go into board books, and it's titled the 2025 Communication with Those Charged with Governance. So that letter you probably haven't seen, but it's there now.
I have a couple questions. The first is going back to, there was one of the findings that was about over expenditures. Could you explain that one?
So the district passes a budget that has appropriations included within that budget process. When the district spends more than that budgeted amount, we have to report that as part of the state regulations. So as part of that, the general fund for the instruction function spent more than what was budgeted by the districts. And the same thing for the special revenue fund with support services. So the district expenditures exceeded the authorization from the board.
Thank you. I have one more question. And I'm not sure if this is better for you or Michelle. So if you're like, you could tell me that you want to wait. But I'm just wondering what like the possible implications of these findings are, like the consequences to the district.
I'll take that. It doesn't look great. Fortunately for us, it's not findings that end in a criminal case. These are compliance issues. There was a tremendous amount of turnover in the finance office over the last year. So I think some of these things are clear evidence of that. And I know that the team that's in place now has embraced change from the moment they started, and many of these things have already been effectively addressed through better controls and oversight. When you look at was it reviewed and approved before it went out the door? For the ESSER report, for example, there was nothing wrong with the report. There was nothing wrong inside the report. Our auditors were looking for confirmation that we had oversight before it went to the state, and that was the component we were missing. And so we learned a lot through this audit process. I want to express gratitude to Dan and his team. To Rachel Lopez Hopper and Michael Miranda Moore are here. They're standing here on behalf of a whole small army of people who have dug in to really make sure that this report is as transparent as we could bring to you. Ideally, we would like to have no findings at any level, federal, compliance, state level. So that's our goal, is to eliminate those over the course of time.
Thank you. In terms of, are there any risks beyond reputational risks, like risks from funding perspectives or bond ratings, or?
No, there was a question of timing. We got a little tight on our timing because the state of Oregon had a February 2nd cutoff to receive this report, and so that got a little close for us, because had we missed that deadline, we would have had to foregone our February state school fund payment, which would have become a cash flow issue. So there was definitely some heat under us to go ahead and wrap this up as quickly as possible as we were moving through. Again, a lot of this was kind of check and balance, and then documentation of that check and balance in place. So this report was required in order for us to deliver our preliminary official statement for the bonds we're about ready to sell, because this is the documentation of our performance. So I don't see it being an impact to the sale, but it is a necessary component in order to have a sale on the market. So I don't anticipate any of these findings hurting us in that way as we go to the bond market.
My question kind of goes along with that, in that your staff is working on it, but when you look at at least what's on board, you've got some vacancies. Have they been filled, or are you feeling short-staffed?
They have been filled. Thank you so much for the question. So I started in my role as Chief Financial Officer after an almost 2-year interim period of permanent person in that role. And when I came on, I was able to hire 3 additional financial leadership positions that had also been and just not in place for a period of time. And so that lack of oversight is what you're seeing here, and we are fully staffed today, and I'm so thankful.
Good, because we know that it's hard to be fully staffed.
Yeah.
Even if you have the money, it's hard to find the right people.
I think we have the right team.
But now you have the right people. Good. There was something I really didn't understand. The district had made a decision to not use the 10% de minimis indirect cost rate, and we're figuring a different one, I think, which was lower, but probably takes more effort to figure out.
Yeah.
Is there any reason for that?
Well, there's a state level certification that we get for our indirect rate, and they take all of our expenses and they kind of do a calculation on behalf of all the districts that will yield typically between 4 and 5%. I don't know what our exact number is today. I think as we look at those targeted program funds, it is the practice in PPS to target as many of those funds as we can towards the program and less towards overhead, which would be that higher 10%. So I would say that that's been the value for us, is to have those dollars go to the program rather than to overhead.
And so it doesn't take that much more time to figure it out?
No, it's just a standard
just
percentage rate, yeah, and it's issued to us. So I'm not sure why there was as much fluctuation as there was.
Okay, any more questions? Okay.
Ooh, I had a comment.
Oh,
I almost
yeah.
forgot.
Mhm.
And then I pulled this up to make it, and then I looked away. Hold on. I have to look at page 143 again. But it's not where it's supposed to be.
Do you want to borrow my 143?
Yeah. It's out of order. I just had it in my hand. Maybe it's not 143. Yeah, but that's the right page. Okay. One thing that I thought was really helpful for me to understand as somebody who's not an auditor, to like anybody who might be listening out there, is it says significant deficiency, and that sounds really bad. But actually, material weakness is sort of like the really bad one, and this is like the less bad one.
Yep.
And so, just simply put, I wanted to say so, and remind us all that having this many findings might not feel good, but they're the kind of findings that are like de minimis, that we need to improve things, but not like we have major issues. So I just thought I would put that on the record because that was kind of my understanding.
Right, and also understanding we have not had a CFO for a long time. And we obviously have one now that is really in charge, and I really appreciate you, Michelle. And so many of the problems had to do, obviously, with not enough staff to check on things. So it sounds like we've solved the problem.
I actually did have one question. Sorry. The qualification for a low risk auditee, is the fact that PPS doesn't qualify, does that have any implications for funding or elsewhere?
The main thing that impacts is the coverage of federal expenditures that we have to audit. So a low risk auditee is 20%, high risk auditee is 40% of expenditures. And I think this relates to a finding 2 years ago. So we do a 2-year look back period, and it's very much check. Did you do this? Check box. Did you do this? Check box. Did you not do this? Okay, that gets you into a high risk auditee. And so this was, I think, related to a finding, if I remember correctly, a couple years ago. So it should roll off soon.
So it's still high risk because of the findings this time.
Yeah, a material weakness triggers a high-risk auditee for the most part, or if your failure to file on time. Those are the two big ones that people get tripped up on, is material weakness or failure to file on time. And then there's also a few other things in there, but those aren't as common.
And I understand that mainly means that the next year you'll look at more things.
Yep, more work.
Yep.
More
Which
risk
would
means
cost us
more work.
Yeah, okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for the, oh, sorry.
No, I just wasn't sure if you were done.
Yeah.
I have a question on that
Yeah.
part. I admit, in an ideal world, I would have read the ACFRs for the last 10 years to understand. We now have Michelle on board. We have a fully staffed finance office. So there were 4 out of 60, I think I heard you say, that were found. What were the last ones, and does that mean it's getting better? Like, explain that to me.
I think last year it was 5 or 6.
Do you look at the same?
No, we
Okay.
pull.
Just randomly.
Everything over, okay, all the teachers in the district, let's take 60 and see.
I see.
And see if they're correct or not.
Oh, okay.
And we do this on a number of other things with ADM as well. Attendance. Did somebody who didn't show up for 10 days get properly removed from the rolls? That kind of stuff. So there is a lot of stuff that we tested that went right. I do want to specify this.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
I did look up the history of that issue specifically, so I can kind of just tell you at a high level. In 2024, the teachers' experience, there were 60 tested and 4 errors. And then in 2023, there were no compliance-related errors. In 2022, there were 60 tested with 6 errors related to years of experience. And then I went back one more year, which is 2021, and there were 60 tested with 4 errors.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, thank you very much. In looking over the audit results for the last few years, we see that there was one financial statement related finding in the 2023 ACFR, but we have otherwise had no financial statement or single audit related finding since 2017. As we have had such a long run of clean audits, I want to refresh our understanding of what the ORS states related to audit determinations. ORS 3284767 states in part, upon receipt of the audit report, the school district board shall determine the measures the board considers necessary to correct any deficiencies disclosed in the audit report. The board shall adopt a resolution setting forth any corrective measures the board proposes and the time estimated to complete the measures. After the audit committee, we've already had a chance to ask our questions. I'm going to be asking you for your positions on a couple of options that the committee has. First, we can make a recommendation to the full board that the board accept the ACFR and single audit report as is. Secondly, we can make a recommendation to the full board to accept the reports and pass a resolution affirming the corrective actions staff have outlined in their presentation. And third, we can make a recommendation to the full board to accept the reports and pass a resolution setting forth any corrective measures the board proposes and the period of time estimated to complete the measures. I have printed those three on a piece of paper that should be in front of you, because I know that I'm a visual learner. I can't keep those things in my head. So if you want to take a look at those, think about what you want to recommend to the full board. Personally, as I think on this, I'm leaning toward the option to make a recommendation to the full board to accept the reports and pass a resolution affirming the corrective actions staff has outlined in their presentation. We've had clean audits for so many years. I think a resolution to acknowledge the significant deficiencies that were identified in the audit and affirm the board's support of the corrective actions is the most appropriate course of action. But I want you to look at them, ask any questions you have, and then we'll vote on which one.
We're curious if we hear more about the corrective actions, or are we just basing it on what we've read?
I do have some more slides, and I do have staff here to answer any questions you might have. It shouldn't take long to get through them. If you want to think about those options that Chair Sullivan offered.
Can I ask whether there's a hybrid option where I like two, but I do like the time period estimated to complete the measures? Is it possible to sort of have a resolution affirming the corrective actions that I think we're going to learn about, but then also with a timeline? Or
Isn't the third one a timeline?
Well, the third one, I wondered about the third one because it seems to say any corrective measures the board proposes. I wasn't sure whether we're really the ones who should be proposing it.
So the corrective action plans addressing these findings, they have to have state the who is going to be accountable for this, what is going to happen, and then by when. So those are already outlined within the corrective action plan that we've offered. And if there are additional considerations, I haven't heard that yet, but we can, entertain that.
Yeah, I will defer to you to say if we could actually have a whole different.
Not that I think that by affirming the corrective action plan that staff have outlined, we're affirming the time that is included, referenced in the corrective action plan. But I think Michelle has a few more slides where she's going to go over those corrective action plans. So maybe we could make that decision after we let her go on with a couple more slides.
Okay.
Great. Okay, I'll finish this up. Dan, thank you so much for coming tonight. Appreciate all of the in-person teamwork that we had through this process. It's been great.
Yeah, and thank you for answering our questions.
No problem.
so
And if you have
clearly.
any more, please feel free to reach out. We do work for the board, so.
Oh, I just had a slide with his contact info, so it's
Yeah.
in the deck. If you want to reach out to him, that's fine. These are highlights that I wanted to bring forward to you. This is based on my past experience in terms of providing a little bit more readability to a pretty highly technical document. So just the staff memo is really just a summary to identify specific points of interest through the report. The ACFR is really a instrument for reporting private industry as well. So it's applied to local governments, and it comes across a little bit different because we're not profit makers, right? So that's why the document is highly technical, but hopefully these points of interest will be helpful for you.
Can I confirm that you call it ACFR?
ACFR,
Okay.
that's what
Thank
all the
you.
cool kids say.
Yep.
So I did want to point out the GFOA award. That is a gold star standard that PPS has held to for a very, very long time, with or without findings. Basically, that means that we have a series of pretty intensive questionnaires that we go through as we're putting together the report to make sure that we include all of the necessary components that we need for full disclosure in the marketplace and to the community at large. We do have a description of the corrective action plans on all of the findings that were discussed here tonight. Again, some of them are related and overlapping, but we've identified those. Our operational fund balance, that minimum target that we were striving to hit for the year, that's a high level of interest to especially our labor partners as we move into negotiations. That's an area that if they have identified any type of a surplus, that would indicate to them that there's additional dollars available for spending rather than our absolute minimum target. We have the management discussion and analysis, and that's basically a description of what's changed over period over period. So what's gone up, what's gone down, our rationale for why that occurred. So that's a little bit of reflection from our management's position between years. And then the whole last part of the book, aside from the correspondence from our auditors, is supplemental and statistical information that is pretty interesting if you're thinking about buying bonds, for example, because you can see how our local economy is doing, what our enrollment trends are doing, what our staffing is doing. Are we operationalizing reductions as needed if enrollment's declining? That's something that our recent ratings firms look at pretty significantly. So those are areas of interest in the staff memo. Happy to expand on those. If you guys have feedback for me, I'd sure like to get it better every year. The note on findings, this I included with my correspondence to you to the board last week. This is not an excuse, but it's a reminder of the timing of this. We were well over halfway for fiscal year 24-25 when I came into my role. Shortly thereafter, our financial team was filled completely, so we had the correct leadership. On the heels of that, we had some critical roles turn over, and so there was definitely a gap. You can see Goldfish 1 going to Goldfish 2. It's a lot like what it felt like for our team. And so just a reminder that none of these findings were due to a loss or misuse of funds. So those controls were solidly in place through the transition, and we're really thankful for that. So this is the corrective action plan for federal, super tiny type, but you can see that we have that one that's kind of standing alone. About the CFA, which is when we are in the springtime doing our May work with our auditors, we do an estimate that kind of shows what our total amount of federal funding is going to be. And from that, they decide how much of that pie is going to need testing and at what level. And we didn't correctly identify that amount, so it kind of created a reset in their work when they came back. The other federal program things listed down below there, a lot of it has to do with review and approval. So we were missing that step. We're aware of that now. And notification to staff members around time and effort. When we realized that that was going to be a challenge for us this year, it was the same time that the federal programs were shutting down. And so we worked with HR to make sure that we were still notifying people that they were federally funded without the fear of losing their positions because of the shutdown. So it was a little bit tricky coming through that, but we've kind of normalized that notification process moving forward so that that's not going to be an issue.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I really appreciate that you're taking responsibility here. I'm just curious what that looks like downstream from you, like a general answer. Like, if you're going to ensure this happens, do you develop process and procedures with your wonderful colleagues that they adhere to. Because otherwise, I just want to dig a little, like the tiniest bit deeper into what that means to you when you take responsibility personally versus some sort of like systems answer here.
Yeah, we already have, like I said, corrected this through oversight that's standardized, which is my tool, right? I just go there, do this, and then follow up to make sure that that happens. So I want to say that, you know, my senior director is always saying like, charge and then verify. So give that and then follow up to make sure that those things are happening. That's a lot of the work that I do and that they do as leaders as well. So I mean, it was a little eye-opening coming from a pretty highly controlled environment and not understanding where those catch points are. And I'm feeling fairly confident that the chief financial and the finance office has a clear understanding of what these challenges were and how we can address them moving forward.
Hi, I also have a question about whether there's some sort of succession plan or a plan. Would it be part of a correction plan, a corrective action plan to document what would happen the next time there's a transition?
Yes. I think coming into this, we recognized that there was a significant lack of documentation of processes for certain decisions that were being made, and there was no immediate repercussion because of that. Like, this is the repercussion, and those folks are long gone. So I think the awareness, the controls, the standardized trainings for our team members, org chart that supports the structure of oversight, I think is going to be critical for us as well. So I think we've learned a lot. We've learned how to embed that more into the roles of our managers. And that was this higher level of managers that we were missing for a while. So making sure that as they come on, they know exactly what to look for.
So have you set up like a documentation plan? It's all done?
Yes. Yes, and I can bring samples if you'd like to see them.
I believe you.
Aside from documentation, has PPS made any efforts to, retain staff in this specific department to, as part of solving this issue?
Absolutely. I tell them every day how important they are to me and to the students here in the community at PPS. I think that any leadership change, it has lasting effects. And so we are definitely starting at the bottom of that hill and then creating that cross-training and path for recruitment and retention and growth so that I have a succession plan. That's the ideal state. I really appreciate that question.
I'd like to tease Chief Morrison about signing a 5-year contract to stay with PPS. I mean, I know I'm just teasing her, but I've said that multiple times just because it would be so nice, and it's really important to have the consistency of the leadership. So I know you haven't officially signed any formal contract requiring you to stay for a certain number of years, but we certainly hope that you do.
Thank you, Janice. We'll wrap this up so that we can get to our ML information that I know you guys also need to take in tonight. We have the corrective action plan for the state programs. We've talked a lot about the appropriations that were exceeded, and we have a plan in place for addressing that. Fortunately, we had the resources to match it, so that's how we were able to still land on our minimum fund balance. The budget transfers in lieu of supplemental budget, we talked about that mechanism as well. And last spring, as a new team, we weren't quite sure which mechanism to use. We did bring an action request to the board. It was approved, but it didn't align well with local budget law. And then the state reporting of teacher experience. Any of those factors that our audit partners are testing are related to the state school fund. So there is a teacher experience factor. Whether you're above or below the state average, you get an adjustment in your funding. Is it the acknowledgement that those senior teachers are typically going to cost more? And just like all of the other weighting that happens with the student average daily membership, or demographic type, how they're being recorded and how we're being funded are critical, and our auditors are making sure that we're not over or under reporting those. These are the next steps. There's no changes to the report at this point. It is final. We are going to move towards board approval by resolution. We kind of talked a little bit about some options here tonight. So that is information that's already in the board packet. If something is going to be different from that from the committee, I think that notification would need to go fairly quickly. And then we have multiple filings that we're required to do for disclosure as far as Oregon Department of Education, the Secretary of State's office, and Emma, which is our kind of our clearinghouse for bond buyers. That's where they go to see your financial information and any material events that have occurred. And then, of course, implementation of our corrective action plans. I think I've mentioned we're already well on our way for that and preparing to have a great audit this year. Thank you so much all for your time. And I can take questions after this meeting as well. You're welcome to continue to ask questions, but they may come to you later.
Okay, any more questions right now before we vote on the recommendation? We've asked a lot of questions. I'm really pleased with our committee here. A lot going on. Okay, I'd like us to vote now. This is what we'll present to the board if we vote on it. Those in favor of making a recommendation to the full board to accept the reports and pass a resolution affirming the corrective actions staff have outlined in their presentation, please say yes.
Are we allowed to vote? We're allowed to vote? Okay.
Yes.
Well, we want to know what you think, though.
Okay, got it. So it's like an informal vote. 'Cause
Right.
Committees can't make decisions.
Yeah.
So it's just like
Well,
a,
we can decide
vote
what
to
we
have
want
it.
to present to the board.
Okay.
The committee is
Send it out of committee.
voting on what type of referral it would like to make to the board.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. So, if you agree with that one that I just stated,
Is it
please
the
say
second
yes.
one?
Yes, it's the second one,
Can I ask a question?
middle one. Yeah.
Michelle, I'm sorry. I've looked
No,
at
that's okay.
this stuff last night and now I'm hazy. Does the corrective action plan in the bigger document have the dates by which, or
No.
it's already done?
No, that's in my, it's outlined in my memo.
So there's where the dates are.
Yeah.
It's in the memo. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure because I know Steph was saying, or I'm sorry, Director Engelsman was saying that the dates were important to her. So as long as the dates that are in your memo are included in our resolution. Yeah. Okay. Just making sure.
Then I wonder if that'd be number 3.
I don't think so because I think number 3 is us changing it,
Yeah.
making different recommendations with a different timeline. That's what I got out of that conversation.
Yeah, I don't even know what I did with my third one.
I lost mine too. It's gone. It's in the file.
Thank you.
Oh.
Let's see, yeah, the last one, setting forth any corrective measures the board proposes. So we would propose more than have already been proposed by Michelle.
That was the part that concerned me because I don't feel at all.
Yeah,
Um,
because there's no way I
Yeah.
can propose anything.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So if there's a timeline, to Director Split's point, if there's a timeline in the corrective actions that you're proposing that we've looked at, that seems good to me, which seems like it's number 2. But I don't
Yes.
feel equipped to add anything different. You may be able to assist us with that.
I want number 2, but with dates. But that the expert staff is who proposes. That's what I would suggest, that we add some dates into number 2.
Separate from the dates, because I think that was my original question, but then it sounded like there are dates in the corrective action that we would be adopting. So I think I thought I was getting dates. So tell me,
I think maybe, I'm going to suggest maybe the second half of 2 is pass a resolution affirming the corrective actions and timeline staff have outlined in their presentation.
and/or in the corrective action memo.
I don't have that paper, and that's what, I don't know that I need it.
Okay.
I just want to give you probably my thoughts around preparing for tonight and then preparing for next week. So there is already in the board packet the staff memo that outlines the corrective action plan with the timelines for implementation, which are immediately. So it's upon passage. And there is a resolution already out there. So this piece, I wasn't really prepared to help navigate because I think it's already in the pipeline to the board.
Although we didn't see it, I'm going to agree that I think that they are in there, and I think we should honor that they have proposed timelines by including that in our resolution. That's my suggestion.
Do we need to actually change the wording then on this?
I mean, to be honest, I am not quite sure how the resolution proposal would work, but I think that you would want to reach out to the chair of the board to discuss like the option on how to accompany the recommendation from the audit committee to the packet.
Yeah.
Can we just take a minute and pull up what's already resolved in the packet if somebody already wrote the resolution? It seems kind of awkward that we're supposed to be making a resolution to the board, but the board, somebody already decided what it is and it's in the packet. Okay. Okay. Do we need to like break for a second?
Yeah, let's take a 3-minute break to look it up. Oh, okay.
I'm gonna look over.
It's going to take me forever to get in. Oh, come on. You got it? So it should be at our regular meeting. I don't see. sounds good to me. All right. Oh, I think so, yeah. You know me, I know everything. Okay, the resolution, the Board of Education accepts the annual comprehensive financial report, reports to management, and report on requirements for federal awards of School District Number 1J, Multnomah County, Oregon, for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2025, and approve the corrective action plan in response to the deficiencies reported by the audit team.
That's what it says, and the corrective plan has timeline in it. So we're good. I think, yeah?
Doesn't have a timeline.
No, the corrective action plan has
A
timelines in
timeline.
it.
So, yeah. Okay, can we all?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
So, the corrective action plan timelines without a timeline in the resolution can change without board oversight or board approval if they need to change, right? Is that fair?
Well, they're effective immediately.
Right.
So I don't see that changing.
Okay.
Like this is in response to the findings, with or without board action, those things are going to occur.
Okay.
That is our plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I think all we're doing is just informally blessing this.
Right.
Right.
Just so you know, in the audit committee's charter, it does say the audit committee has the opportunity to make recommendations to the full board and management about reporting, monitoring, and corrective action plans. So we've had such great audit, really clean. We haven't really felt the need to discuss the option of making a recommendation related to any corrective action plans, but it is certainly within the charter to allow us to do so.
So, since we do have that opportunity, if we can approve this, that will save time at the board meeting, anyway, or we can advise that we think it's a good idea. So, is there anybody who has more they want to say about this? Can we all say, yes, we agree with the resolution that's coming up at the board meeting?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Good. Thank you.
And in your committee report to the board, you can just, like, since it's already written and everything, you can just let the board know that that resolution comes with the recommendation of the audit committee.
Okay. So I'll reach out to the chair of the board for that beforehand. One other thing, I just wanted to ask Chief Morrison and the auditor from TKW about the timing of the completion of the ACFR and single audit reports moving forward. I understand the unique circumstances delayed the report this year. And due to those circumstances, I understand that Chief Morrison has already submitted the reports to the state to meet the deadline. For the last several years, the ACFR package and single audit report have not been provided to the audit committee until the day of the audit committee meeting. For today's meeting, we have the documents several days in advance and we're able to review them in detail. And we really appreciate the opportunity the last couple of days provided us to better understand this information. And, you know, it's a hard, as you said, we're not auditors. It's really hard to understand it. Janice helped us go through it and understand. And it compared to last year, I mean, it just felt good that you had some knowledge and that you were understanding what was said. It makes a big difference. So moving forward, I just wonder, is there anything that the audit committee can do to support this work to ensure we're able to receive the information earlier so we have time to review it?
Yeah, it's our intent. We already have calendared for our next year for preliminary field work and then our final in the fall. So really the delay of the federal shutdown and issuing the guidance, that's kind of an outlier in terms of what we have control over. Mm-hmm. But, you know, given the new GASB statements that are coming up for us, we're going to have our eyes on those and be ready to include those in our report as the best we can. So aside from that, aside from another delay due to federal program shutdown, we should be on target to bring it to you in January at the latest. Usually our December meeting's a little early for the full report, but definitely by January.
Try to get it. I know you try to get it earlier.
Oh, yes.
So
The sooner
whatever
the
you
better.
can do, and if there's anything we can do to help, probably not, but just let us know.
Thank you. I would appreciate any feedback you guys have on the report for readability or the staff memo as well. So always looking to improve.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much. I'm looking at the clock, and Janice has a presentation for us on the multilingual learners, the English Language Development Audit Report. And since we are down to a short amount of time, Janice can either do the short presentation or the long presentation. I think she'll probably decide on the short. So I'm going to turn it over to Janice, and if anybody who's not wanting to learn about this ELL, oops, sorry, it's not ELL, it's changed, this presentation, you are welcome to sneak out. We won't feel bad. So, Janice, it's up to you.
Great, thank you, everyone. I printed a copy of the report for you guys. So I want to start by just mentioning that PPS is transitioning the use of the language in the way in which we talk about multilingual learners. So what we previously referred to as ELL, or English language learners, we're now using asset-based language, so multilingual learners. And I, along with a lot of people, will probably accidentally slip, but it is the intent to try to use that asset-based language. If you have the copy of the report, just kind of go over the executive summary with you guys because we're a little bit short on time. So if you flip to page 6 of the report, that lists the executive summary. So the objective of the audit was to determine if the school district has adequate internal controls to ensure compliance with applicable requirements, stating in part that public schools must take affirmative actions to ensure students with limited proficiency can meaningfully participate in their educational programs and services. We identified a couple of key compliance categories for testing. Those are the identification and assessment of ML students, multilingual learners, the required communication with student families, the Title III ELD family informational sessions, and the annual ELPA, which is the English Language Proficiency Assessment summative, exiting the ELD program, and post-exit teen monitoring. We tested a lot of different students over a period of years, and we did identify some non-compliance. Ultimately, the kind of overarching conclusion is that we found that internal controls need to be strengthened to maintain the overall integrity of the school district's compliance with applicable requirements. The audit did not identify any instances of intentional fraud or even a lack of care. Actually, quite the opposite. We saw a lot of care being put into the work. However, we did identify instances of non-compliance in each of the key compliance categories we tested, as well as some opportunities for process improvements. We made a total of 9 recommendations, and management has agreed with all 9 of the recommendations. Throughout the report, following each of the recommendations, management has included their response, and that's in blue font, so it will pop out to you. And it looks like they already have a lot of things in the works in order to address some of the instances of noncompliance. There is also been a little bit of shifting in staffing between the funded programs team and the multilingual services team. So the recommendations are made primarily to the multilingual services team, which will be the team that will need to implement the recommendations to ensure client compliance moving forward. And we do today have with us Will Flores up there in the corner, just in case anybody wants to ask him any questions. And we also have Joanna Tobin here. And we wanted to invite them. Like, I think that we will have them back in 90 days or so to talk about the implementation plan that they come up with over the next 90 days. So, but definitely wanted to have them here in case there are any specific questions. The team doing the work exercised a lot of care and appeared really diligent. I mean, we saw lots of emails with reminder emails and sending follow-up to kind of get that compliance going. So I do think that the recommendations that we've provided will kind of close some of the accountability gap in our framework by including, by recommending that the multilingual services team collaborate with our chief of schools to develop a accountability protocol that will support the team in ensuring compliance. That's high level, but luckily I did try to meet with you all to go over the detailed, but I did anticipate it would be a late night, so I did prepare just a little bit to go over, and I'll take any questions that you might have.
Okay. I know you went over with us, at least with me, and I'm assuming everybody else, really carefully. I don't know if Jennifer and Caroline or Evan and you two, you all did?
Yep.
Okay, so that was wonderful. It was a really thorough presentation to all of us, and I really appreciated it.
And I think I'll just put out there, I think it's really important work. One thing we've been hearing about as a board is that our multi-language learners are the ones that are sometimes having the hardest time demonstrating academic progress. And we have work to do to figure out why that is, help increase their sense of belonging in our schools, help them gain the academic skills that we want them to gain so that they can be successful adults. So I think it's just really great that we took a look at what was working and wasn't working with that program. And I hope that what's in there can be informative so that we can better identify these kids, get them the services they need. And then I also thought it was really important that we looked at how they were doing sort of after they came out of the program. And I think it's so important that we make sure that these kids continue to have somebody checking out to see if they need any, I'm stuck thinking of the word adaptations, which is not the right word, but like adjustments or whatever. Accommodations is the right word. There we go. If they need additional accommodations to be academically successful and just otherwise successful in school, although we don't super measure that in the process. But I just wanted to say thank you, and just for anyone listening, it's just important work for something that we are really needing to lean in on as a board and as a district. And I also just wanted to thank Super Chief, do we call her Super Chief Howard? I'm not sure what we call her, Chief Howard, who, and her team who agreed to all the recommendations and I think are like excited to make the changes. It sounds like, I think that, I've talked about this a little bit in other spaces, but I think of audits and accountability as just really important to my own quality of work. Like if nobody's ever reviewing my work, then it's not going to be as good. And so I think the more the district can like open up, and the district does seem to open up to audits as a chance to make improvements, and just part of a continuous improvement model, which I think is just important for any organization or any human being. And so I just wanted to specifically shout out the folks you worked with on this who were getting audited, and then also Super Chief Howard and her team for just opening up to getting that feedback and wanting to be part of improving their work. I kind of was repetitive, but forgive me.
But you repeated really nice things. That's okay. Okay. Now that this report is presented to the audit committee, it's considered final, and it's going to be added to the completed audits posted on the PPS audit reports page. I'll also send a request to the board office to have the report posted in the supplemental resources section of board books for the next regular meeting of the board. And I think, is that already done? Okay. And I don't know if anybody will read the whole thing, but I know, there's a lot in it. So to wrap up the meeting, I want to just take a few minutes to consider future agenda topics for the audit committee and next steps. So our internal auditor has been tracking our progress on the audit committee's work plan for the year, and it's on the agenda document that you have in front of you. So I know I never remember from meeting to meeting what's coming up, but if you want to look at it, see what's coming up, see if you want to add anything else. Let us know. You don't really have to let us know tonight even, but just look ahead for future when we make them up. I also know that I have to just check on dates, because I think you have a real problem.
You have
right?
issues, huh?
Yeah, I think, so the standing work session meeting, I think we're gonna be able to move that instead of this. So I think I'm okay. I'm gonna keep coming to
For
this.
March.
Mhm.
fifth.
The
You're
other
okay.
thing you're doing, you're
Yeah,
setting
I reached
aside
out to the chair of that.
backup.
Oh,
They're gonna work on
The
maybe
other
moving that,
entity.
the other
Oh,
thing. Yeah,
perfect, because
yeah.
it would be a lot of
Yeah.
changing dates. Okay, wonderful. Thank you,
Thank
Stephanie.
you, Stephanie. Or thank you.
Oh,
Catherine.
thank you, Director.
Thank you.
I like first names.
Me too.
Okay. So, thank you for that. That really is helpful. Then to summarize next steps, I've got two. I'll submit I'm sorry, I gotta say it right. Multilingual learner. Too many L's there. They don't roll off the tongue. Multilingual learner English language development audit to the board office. I already said that. Reported to board book for the next meeting. And I'll plan to touch base with the chair of the board to discuss how to bring the resolution we discussed. No, it's already there. I'll just tell him we agree with that resolution. And then I was going to talk about scheduling, but that's taken care of. And anything else? Anybody have anything they want to share or have for future meetings or anything? Will you look at this?
Look at the time.
Wow.
Janice, thank you. You did a great job of presenting
Thank
quickly.
you.
I know you had a lot you could have said, but I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Should have asked if you guys wanted to say anything.
Oh, I think we're really happy with what was presented. This is an opportunity to improve, and the team is already working on many of the things that were mentioned. So we appreciate Janice and team, and the opportunity to work with internal partners as well, Chief Cardona, and move along our systems process.
I'm
Thank
sorry
you.
for not directly thanking you two that are in the room. I just didn't know that you two were here for that. So just thanked your boss when I should have thanked you. My apologies.
I get to do this. Meeting adjourned.
Nice work.
Yep.